Hello YouTube, this is Matt Pullen, and we are going to play a live Blitz game on chess.com because that is, well, sounds like an okay thing to do. Alright, so I'm playing 1800, alright, I'm 1841, okay, seems alright. I think I'll open with d4 this game. And I will play the Veresov, knight c3, and see what opening he allows me to transpose into. Alright, so I'll play e4, I'll play d6 maybe, and turn into a Pierce. And how do I want to play against this? I think I will play, I'll play the neoclassical, so with knight f3, and then when he plays bishop g7, I'll play h3. And the idea here is to put the bishop on e3, and then queen on d2, and then if wait to see what black is doing in the center. If he plays e5, I might exchange on e5, and then play my bishop to c4 right away, saving a tempo over lines where my opponent has to play bishop e2 and then bishop c4 later. All right, here, can I just chop on e5? So if I chop on e5 and he chops back, let's see, in the King's Indian, you cannot win a pawn by taking twice on e5 because, takes, I take his queen, and then after knight takes, he plays knight takes e4. But what I can do is I can, chop on e5 and then take his rook and then play bishop c4, and then maybe he has to worry about his f7. So I think I will do that. I'll take on e5 and then trade the queens, and then instead of take on e5, which would allow him to just play knight takes e4, I play bishop c4, a developing move, and possibly hit his f7 square. So he plays h6 to keep me off of f7, which seems sensible. And now I can just play knight takes e5, can't I? Because then I'm threatening f7 with the bishop and the knight. So I think this seems like a good idea. Alternatively, I could have played bishop takes f7 check, and then after king takes, knight takes e5 check, and then knight takes g6. That would have won 3 pawns for the piece. But alright, here he wants some counterplay on the long diagonal. So can I play bishop takes f7 check? He plays king f8. And then I think I might have a problem then, because then, if I move my knight, my bishop on f7 would be hanging. However, I can play bishop takes I can play knight takes f7. And if knight takes f7, I'm threatening to take his rook discovered check. So, and if he moves his rook, I can take on e4. If I play knight takes f7, and he plays knight takes c3, I think I need to take his rook. So yes, this threat of the discovered check is very, very powerful. So let's say he moves his rook somewhere. I think I can get away then with taking his knight on e4. So yeah, my opponent may have made a mistake by playing e5 very early because of my possibility of bringing the bishop to c4. I mean, he played h6, which allowed me to take on e5, but if he didn't play h6, I was going to bring my knight into g5 and have a serious attack against f7. So here, I'm not going to take this knight, because then he would play bishop takes check, and he'd be attacking my king and my rook. Instead, I'm just going to take this rook, for discovered check. And, yeah, I'm going to continue to ignore this knight on c3. And play, I just play knight to e6. This looks like a good move. I'm threatening to exchange for his bishop on g7, also threatening to take on c7. So he's probably going to play bishop takes e6, and then I'll take with my bishop. Alright, so here he's probably going to he doesn't have to retreat his knight. Because I'm, well, maybe he does, because am I threatening pawn takes knight and then bishop takes king e2, and then if he takes the rook, I just take back, and I've won. All right, here he's threatening bishop takes b2, and his knight's not going anywhere special. Can I just queenside castle to guard that? All right, queenside castle to guard that with my king, and also put my rook on the open d file. Alright, so here, on knight c6, I think maybe bishop to d7, which will force an exchange of one of those knights, and, help me simplify the position. I am up in exchange. So things are looking pretty rosy here. See, I think I'll chop on c6. But then there's this knight coming into c4. Well, I can play pawn to b3 to stop that, if I need to. Maybe I just develop my king here, play pawn c3, king c2, and then if he plays his knight to threaten my bishop, just bring my rook over to e1 to guard it. Or I could play to exchange his powerful bishop on g7 by playing bishop d4. I think I like that a little better, actually. If the opponent has an influential piece, the bishop on g7, which is aiming at my queen side. So I want to exchange that piece. So he runs away. He doesn't want to exchange, which is sensible. Now I'll just bring my rook to the open file. He's threatening, what is he threatening here? Well, maybe to exchange the bishop. I'm not sure I mind that too much, actually, but maybe I'll just play bishop e5, which is potentially giving my rook access to d7. I need to play a little bit faster here. He could play bishop c5, attacking my f2 pawn. But then I play rook d7 check. That would force his king back. Oh, because I can't play rook g7 because the knight's on that square. However, I could play g4 and make his knight move. Alright, so here, just moving his knight again. I think I'll just play the bishop to f6 with the idea of bishop to e7 forcing the exchange of a piece. I could have taken on a d6, but then he repairs his pawns with c takes d6. Alright, so that doesn't threaten me in any way, so I'll play bishop e7 to force this exchange. If he plays bishop g7, then I take on d6 twice, winning a pawn. So now I'm just going to double rooks on the 7th rank ASAP. And my opponent has resigned. Alright, do we have time for another live Blitz game with an unrelated opponent? New 5-2. So yeah, I think my opponent just, misplayed his opening and fell into a bad position right away. So it's looking for a match for me. It's not finding anyone. All right, I think I'm just going to call it a morning for live Blitz. I hope you enjoyed that game. I mean, it was not a particularly good one from from the standpoint of I just got a great position right away, but I don't know, maybe it's a good advertisement for that for the opening system that I played. I don't know. Hopefully you get something out of that. Have a good one, YouTube.